This is the presentation to report brief and primary features which are included in my manuscript for the 10th annual Open TESOL conference. And the theme for this international conference is Navigating the New Normal in Language Education. My name is Thuy, a lecturer at Ho Chi Minh City Open University. I achieved my master's degree in 2017 with a specialization in TESOL, and the title of my research is The Variability of Learners' Motivation, which is investigated in two linguistic environments, classroom setting and outdoor environment. This presentation consists of 4 sections. The first section is the introduction, the second is the methodology, the next section is results analysis, and last but not least is the conclusion. Now let's move on to the first section, the introduction. So proceeding with the introduction is the objective. I use this research to examine the variability of learners' motivation in different linguistic environments, the comparison of the changes of learners' attitude and behavior when participating in learning activities in the classroom, learning with teachers, and in natural environment, learning with foreigners outside the classroom. The objective of this research is to figure out which learning style is favored by most learners and originate the cause obstacle and suggest potential teaching style for teachers. Now let's continue with the literature review to consider the research gap that I base on to form my research framework. The first theory is conducted by Proud in 1981. So, he identified the connection between motivation and classroom setting. So he identified the situational motivation, which varies according to the situation in which learning takes place. The motivation associated with classroom learning is distinct from the motivation involved in naturalistic learning. And I found the second theory in the second research by Nguyen, Valorant, and Plancher in 2000. To be more detailed, they assess the construct of intrinsic motivation, identify regulation, external regulation, and motivation in field and lab settings. The trouble that I get in is that there is a field lab research which are directly related to my question, to my investigation between the connection of learners' motivation, including attitudes, behaviors, and their favor in different learning environment. And the next theory is conducted by Gimeno, Hutzler, Vallo, Rivas, and Musher in 2005. They focus on the goal orientation, contextual, and situational motivation. And their field of focus is on the involvement in the Spanish athlete with cerebral palsy. So the field they conduct the research is in sport, not in education like me. But it raised me a lot of questions to consider. And the next theory is conducted by Barnard in 2009. So, the participant is different from mine. They are elementary school counselor, situational motivation, and students' achievement. And, they focus on the elementary school counselor situational motivation, the perception of importance and level of implementation of personal development standard as a strategy for supporting student academic achievement. That means they focus on the correlation between the student motivation in different situations and their high and their achieved learning outcome. So, and other theories based on preliminary research, such as the Clayton in 2009, Kim in 2009, and the research by Toprak in 2011, who focused on motivating by design using game-based learning technique to create an interesting problem-based learning environment. But I could find a research gap here. Uh, there are no researchers who pay more attention or who conduct quantitative or qualitative research on the field of the relationship between the learner's interests and the different learning environment. So, for that reason, I designed my research question with two detailed questions. The first one is which linguistic environment, or I mean natural setting, I mean indoor or outdoor activities, do learners favor? And which linguistic environment motivates learners? They are my two specific questions that I'm going to conduct the research to look for, and to analyze data. And the next part is the methodology. And my kind of research is quantitative, not qualitative. It's my suggested timeline when I conduct my research. I finished the introduction and abstract draft in January, and in the next month I continue with the literature, followed by the data collection and data analysis during 2 months, from March to April. And after that, findings and implication was completed during April and May. And before the final submission, I double check every items, including spelling, grammar, anything related to my research. Now, let's move on. The next important part of my research is the methodology. So this research was conducted in a language center with the number of 25 students from 18 to over 40 years old. And the instrument that I choose is a questionnaire with 10 questions translated into Vietnamese, because it's my common belief that it will help the participant ensure about the content of the question, to make sure that the reliability and the validation of the questionnaire. And the purpose of this questionnaire will analyze the differences, the variation of motivation, which adapts to two distinct linguistic environments, to look for the possible answer for two research questions. And the question in both Vietnamese version and English version will be shown in appendices, which are included in my manuscript. And I forgot to say something about the level of the participant that I choose. So I choose the beginning and pre-intermediate level because I strongly believe that with this level, the student, with the beginning learners, they have no idea or no background knowledge of the language of English. So when maybe it's the first time they access to the learning environment, so we will receive the more reliable data, which are not interfered by different internal and external factors such as intrinsic or extrinsic from teachers, from friends. Yeah. So that is the reason why I choose the beginning and pre-intermediate level. And the next part is the results analysis. So if you're looking closely at the screen, you could see the data from the table 2. So within this table, I look for I collect the data to analyze learner interest in classroom setting. And this data in the table 2 will be examined and will be demonstrated in a diagram like that. And it can be easily to see that over half of learners thought that learning in the classroom is interesting, which can motivate them during learning process. Whereas nearly 1/4 of them complain that learning in classroom with teacher is very boring. The conflict of the result can be explained when compared to the result from natural setting shown in the following table. So, could you see over half? So again, over half of participants show their interest in the classroom setting. And in table 3, table 3 indicates a statistic about the learner's interest in natural setting. And when you look at that, you could see, yes, nearly 90% of the learners show that they are quite feel interested. They are quite feel interested when learning outside the classroom. So unlike the result from table 2, in table 3, a majority of students, so as I have mentioned before, show their interest in learning with foreigners outside the classroom. The percentage of students who are keen on the natural setting is nearly twice as high as classroom setting, 52% versus 96%. However, all students show their good attitude in both linguistic environment, but prefer foreigner talks. So the result could raise a big question for researchers to take into careful consideration. And to figure out the clear differences between two linguistic environments, I would like to take more more calculation to figure out, to separate, to highlight the differences between two natural and classroom setting. So when looking at the pie chart, the the green portion illustrate the real situation communicating with foreigners. The percentage of students who favor who favor real situation and communicate with foreigners. The orange portion show the number of students who favor indoor activity. And the pink portion show that the number of students who favor both learning environments. So it could be, it is easily apparent that yes, over 2/3 of the portion, 2/3 of the participants show their real interest, their real keen on communicating with foreigners outside the classroom with authentic language. So to be more details, I need further information to know why learners prefer their chosen learning environment, or why they love to study outdoor. That's why I make more, data about this one. So column 1 show the benefits of learning in the classroom. Surprisingly, data from 3 parameters show the same result. So the students feel when they study in the classroom, they feel comfortable, they could understand the lesson quite clearly, because I just say maybe because I need, another profile research on this issue. Maybe with the help of the teacher. And because it's a traditional classroom setting, so whenever the student have any queries related to the lesson, the lecture, the teacher could be, a very helpful assistant to help them solve any problem. And they feel comfortable because they have more tasks. And, and the most convenient point that a student can have when they study in the classroom is they can learn a grammatical system. So that could be easy to understand because when we mention the traditional classroom, it is related to the traditional grammar lesson. That's why the students feel comfortable when they learn grammar. Yeah, grammar lessons with traditional teachers. So it implies that students will be motivated if they are taught grammar and do a variety of tasks. So this data, this finding could raise a big question, and it can shed light on more interesting research in the future. When you look at the second column, with regard to the benefits of natural setting, so obviously the percentage of students' attitude toward natural setting is grammatically 4 times as high as classroom setting. 76% of students admitted that their listening skill can be improved clearly when communicating with foreigners. The second rank is the pronunciation, which can be improved clearly. And finally, so I asked the participant the most crucial question: what are learners' attitudes toward this linguistic environment? In other words, in which linguistic environment are your motivation increased the most? And in the data, I can find that as can be seen in column 3 in the manuscript, the motivation of students surely will be increased in the natural setting. It is a plausible and logical answer for 2 research questions. I claim that in my language center, learners do favor learning with foreigners in natural setting. They will get inspired during their learning process. For that reason, their learning outcome is improved. And so, my research, of course, every research has its implication and limitation, the same as my research. My study did not take into account of the psychological aspect. So, many of learners are afraid of the fact that I would be put the blame on them if they said that my class had been very boring. So they choose the option very interesting to describe my class, although they don't intend to answer like that. So for that reason, I think I need to, more literature review on this field to compare the data finding, my data finding, and other research data finding with the same field, with the same topic. And another limitation is that my research only answered two research questions. I would like to figure out learners' attitudes and behaviors in both language settings to realize two reasons causing the variability of situational motivation. So, however, I do not have enough time to conduct an, empirical research or, monthly, long-term observation to collect data. So one more of my concern is the lower rate of fluent speaking in foreigner talk. To my belief, talking with foreigner will enhance the fluency, the speed, the choice, the work choice, the collocation, and and the most important thing is the culture that is implied in the language. So maybe it requires further action research or further, theoretical framework to show the problem of Vietnamese learners. So there are many potential fields for further researchers to conduct their research. So I have, reported the main features of my study, and hopefully it could shed light on more, future potential research in the yeah. So that is the end of my presentation. Thanks so much for your attention and listening. Thank you and goodbye.